Okay, so we're about to dive into a discovery that doesn't just add a new chapter to human history, it basically forces us to rip out the first few pages and start from scratch. And it all comes down to one incredible place, Gobekli Tepe.
You know, think back to your old history class. Remember what they taught you, that civilization, with big cities, grand structures, all that stuff, it really got going about 5,000 years ago, right? That's kind of the foundation of everything we think we know. But what if that foundation is totally cracked? What if the whole timeline we learned is wrong? And I don't mean by a couple hundred years. I'm talking thousands of years. That's the wild idea we're going to get into right now.
All right, so first up, let's do a super quick refresh on the standard story. The official timeline we've all pretty much accepted for generations.
So, when you picture ancient wonders, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's these giants. You've got the first cities popping up in Sumer, you've got the absolutely massive Great Pyramid of Giza, and of course the super mysterious Stonehenge. These are the big ones, right? The cornerstones of early civilization. And they all fit nicely in that 5,000 to 6,000 year old box. But then, in the 1990s, an archaeologist stumbles onto something that, according to our timeline, just shouldn't be there. It was a discovery so out of place, so unbelievably old, it was like finding a smartphone in a T-Rex fossil. It just makes no sense. So picture this, a dry, dusty hill in southeastern Turkey. The place is called Gobekli Tepe, which kind of translates to Potbelly Hill. And archaeologists start digging, and they find these huge, carved stone pillars, all arranged in perfect circles. At first, they had no idea what they were looking at, but as they kept digging, the real story started to come out.
Then they did the carbon dating, and the results were just insane. It wasn't 4,000 years old, it wasn't 6,000, it was 12,000 years old. Just let that sink in for a second. 12,000.
I mean, let's put that into perspective. Göbekli Tepe is more than twice as old as the pyramids and Stonehenge. The gap in time between Göbekli Tepe and ancient Sumer is actually longer than the time between ancient Sumer and us right now. It is just mind-blowingly ancient. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just some old village. Nope. Archaeologists are pretty sure Göbekli Tepe was a temple, a massive place for rituals and get-togethers. That makes it the oldest temple we've ever found on Earth. And it was built before writing, before the wheel, before pottery, before all the stuff we thought you needed for a civilization. So you see, this one discovery doesn't just add a little footnote to history. It completely rewrites the whole story. The order of events we thought we understood, well, it just got flipped completely upside down. Which leads us to the biggest question of all. If this was built 7,000 years before the pyramids, before farming, before cities, who in the world built it? Who had the skills, the manpower, and the reason to do it?
And the answer is a real shocker. The builders, they weren't farmers living in cozy villages. They were hunter-gatherers, nomads. The people we were taught spent every waking moment just trying not to starve. But somehow, these nomadic groups came together, they cut 20-ton pillars out of a quarry, carved them with incredible animal designs using just flint tools, and built this enormous temple. This is the big game changer. The old theory went like this. First came farming. That lets people settle down, then you get extra food, and then you have time to develop complex society and religion. But Göbekli Tepe flips that script entirely. It looks like the desire to build this temple came first, and the need to feed all those people working on it, that might be what actually kickstarted the whole idea of farming. So maybe religion gave birth to civilization and not the other way around.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that our hunter-gatherer ancestors, well, they weren't the simple, primitive folks we've pictured. Not at all. They were sophisticated, they were organized, and they were driven by deep spiritual beliefs thousands of years before we ever thought possible. And once you accept that, this discovery just blows the doors wide open to some even bigger questions about our past. Questions that used to sound like something out of science fiction, but are now being taken very, very seriously.
I mean, just think about it for a second. We were off by 7,000 years about when civilization started. If we could miss something this huge, something that rewrites our origin story, what else are we missing? What else is still buried out there? How much of our history is just flat out wrong?
So you have to ask yourself,
Is Gobekli Tepe a fluke, a one-of-a-kind miracle built by some genius group of hunter-gatherers? Or is it something else? Is it a clue? Maybe the last surviving piece of a much bigger, much older puzzle? A lost chapter in the human story?
And that's really the question Gobekli Tepe leaves us hanging with. It makes you wonder, is our recorded history just the last few pages of a book that's way, way longer than we think? It opens up this mind-bending possibility that advanced cultures existed on this planet, cultures that are now totally lost to time, long before Egypt's pharaohs even came on the scene.